Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Anton, and welcome to today's video for Honkai Star Rail. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, Topaz, and I guess Nami, Topaz and Nami have been out for a little bit, and I've seen a little bit of discussion about Topaz, and that is that Topaz kind of sucks. So I wanted to make this video today, a short-ish video or so, and I wanted to talk about whether Topaz is overrated or underrated. Because we have people saying that Topaz is overrated, and it's kind of just mid. We have people who are saying Topaz is underrated, and she's actually really, really good. Now, for me personally, if you don't care about anything in the video, you just want to know what my opinion is, I'd say Topaz is a little underrated. Now, in this video, we're going to go through why exactly I think Topaz is underrated, and who she works well with. Now, I will say this though, and I'll talk more about this later, I think she also has a lot of room for growth. I'm not saying she's bad, but I think she's similar to Kafka in that while she's good now, in my opinion, she has a lot of room for growth in that with more follow-up characters, new relics, she has a lot of room for growth and is a great addition to the game. Now let's get into it. First off, let's talk about her kit. Now, before we get too far into this video, I just wanted to say for clarity, I personally have a Topaz. So in case you feel like that makes me biased, I just wanted to say that. Personally, I didn't roll for Topaz because I thought her kit was amazing or I was really impressed by anything. I personally rolled for Topaz because she's a very cute waifu. And that's it. Anyway, what does Topaz actually do? Well, first off, she has a basic attack and it's nothing special. Just does some fire damage to a single enemy. Nothing crazy, nothing else, no additional effect or anything. Skill though, and this is where we start to get into why Topaz is, in my opinion, underrated and a little hard to actually evaluate as well. So first off, the skill basically does some fire damage and it puts on a debuff at its core. The fire damage is also being dealt by Nami, so it does get counted as a fire damage follow-up attack. But said debuff is called Proof of Debt. Proof of Debt goes on an enemy. Said enemy now will take increased damage from follow-up attacks. Okay, and that is, in my opinion, the core of Topaz. It's all about this, getting at Proof of Debt on something and then having Nami do some attacks, some follow-up attacks, and preferably your other teammates also doing follow-up attacks to have Nami to trigger some more and more. Then we have her ultimate. Nami enters the Windfall Bonsai state, which increases his damage basically. And when enemies that have Proof of Debt on them are hit, it will advance Nami, make him attack faster. So that's also great. As for the talent, Nami basically gets summoned at the start of the battle, and he will do follow-up attacks to enemies that are inflicted by Proof of Debt, which is great. More damage. And then for the technique, there's a lot to unpack with the technique, but at its core, you summon Nami, and he'll regen some energy when he attacks in battle. There's a little more to his technique, or to Topaz's technique, about how... Or sorry, not his technique, but I guess like a passive where he'll just run around and help sniff out treasure chests, but that's not really related to the battle kit, the fighting kit. Also, the technique, I believe, also increases the amount of credits you get when you actually finish a fight, which it's nice, but it's not really like, in my opinion, that's not really a make or break sale point for whether you want to pull for Topaz or not. So if we look at all of the characters that have follow-up attacks, in my opinion, there are 3 characters that pair really well with her and make Topaz really good. I know some people think there are 4, but I disagree with a lot of those people. I think there are only 3. I think those are Genuin, Clara, and Himiko. The 4th one that some people think also works well with Topaz is March. And yes, I see the synergy with March. I'm not a big fan though. But let's talk about those 3 characters. I want to talk about those 3 characters because I think those 3 characters, Genuin, Clara, and Himiko, are the reasons why you should be playing Topaz, basically. Why Topaz is so good. So let's go, let's start with Mr. Genuin, the general. Now, why is Genuin so good with Clara? Well, Lightning Lord is a follow-up attack. And well, that's basically it. If a character has a follow-up attack, you're already considering that character for Topaz, and a majority of Genuin's damage is from Lightning Lord. Granted, Lightning Lord is pretty slow. This is one of the biggest problems with Genuin, is Lightning Lord is extremely slow, but Proof of Debt really increases Lightning Lord's damage, and Nami as well, of course. The different elements do hurt a bit, of course. Genuin is lightning, Topaz is fire, so it does make it a little bit harder to break enemies, but Asta is also great for said theoretical team. Asta helps give you some more speed to Genuin, which he loves. Asta also is a... How to put this? Let me rephrase what I was going to say. Asta also buffs up fire characters. There we go. That's what I want to say. But yeah, Asta buffing up fire characters, increasing fire damage is really good for Topaz. So in my opinion, every single team that plays Topaz most likely wants Asta. Now, of course, you could say, well, what about Tingyun? Tingyun's great too. The problem with, say, a Topaz, Genuin, Tingyun, Asta lineup is, one, that's kind of skill point heavy in my opinion. I think it can work out, but it is a little skill point heavy-ish. Also, there's no sustainer in that team, and in certain content, you kind of want a sustainer unless you think you can. Basically, MOC 10, you're going to want a sustainer unless you think you're strong enough to zero cycle and you won't get hit in return. And even then, you still maybe want a sustainer with a panic button heal like a Lynx or something. But yeah, I think Genuin is pretty solid for Topaz. I don't think Mr. Genuin is the best for Topaz. Next up, though, we have Clara. I think Clara is better than Genuin for Topaz. Now, if you don't know, her counterattacks, when Mr. Sivarog hits the enemy, that counts as a follow-up attack. So you got a little bit of a mecha pig thing going on with Sivarog and Nami hitting the enemy whenever they hit Clara. Clara is also very skill point friendly too, so this actually does give you a decent amount of team building potential. You get Topaz, you get Clara, and then probably Asta, in all honesty, because Asta just really works well with Topaz. And then for your fourth slot, you have a lot of flex potential. Sustainer, if you want a sustainer. Another supporter, if you want more buffs, like a Tingyun, maybe even a Bronya. A debuffer, like I'd say Pella or something is also a consideration. But I really do like Clara with Topaz. I've also seen some people even go like further beyond and put that Clara with Topaz and March, which is really cute and cool. I don't think it's good though. I think it's a little clunky. Again, like with Genuin, the different elements hurt a bit. You know, physical on Clara, fire on Topaz. So yeah, you can brute force it, or you can just hope that your enemy has both physical weakness and fire weakness, but that's very rare having those two combined in one enemy. I think there's only like 2 or 3 enemy types that have that combo. I just can't remember the exact number because they recently introduced the IPC enemies and I don't remember them. Also, as for team building and supporters, or sorry, sustainers, Lynx works great too. I wanted to mention this. Lynx works really great because of survival response. Survival response basically giving Clara a taunt. Not a hard taunt where the enemies will always attack Clara, but it makes it so she's much more likely to be attacked. And of course, if anyone who knows how Clara's crit works, Clara wants to be attacked as much as possible, so Sivarog can come in and basically beat down all of the enemies, and Nami will take his cheap shots as well and do some fire stuff. And our next character I want to talk about is Himiko. Now, in my personal opinion, I personally think Himiko is the theoretical best pairing for Topaz. Now, some of you might say like, okay, this streamer's crazy. Are you high or something? No, I am not. Trust me on this one. Now, just hear me out. Let me cook, basically. First off, Himiko, unlike, say, Genuin and Clara, is also a fire character just like Topaz, so this lets you break enemies really well. And because she's a fire character, she also pairs up with Asta really well. So, on top of that, you get Asta's fire damage boost on Himiko as well. And Asta and Himiko are really good at breaking units. So if your opponents have fire weakness, which is a fairly common weakness, you're going to be breaking them quite a bit thanks to Asta's skill, Himiko and her passive, her talent, whatever you want to call it. So really nice. Now, I personally have my Himiko built. I have a level 80 Himiko, fairly well built, maxed out traces, solid relics, etc., etc. And I'm mentioning this for my next point, because Topaz, in my opinion, helped shore up one of Himiko's biggest weaknesses, and that's the bad single target damage. Sure, Himiko's got insanely good AoE, both from her ultimate, her skill, her passive throwing around her pizza cutter weapon. I still have no idea what that weapon is. But then you get down to that one last enemy, and usually they're like a tanky elite style enemy, and you're going to take a while to chip away at them because, again, I'm sorry to say, Himiko just doesn't do great single target damage. But with Topaz on the team, Topaz can be like, don't worry, I got this. I'm a hunt character. Single target's my game. And she'll help take out that character. So just really helping shore up Himiko's weakness. So I love that. Also mentioned it a little bit, but yes, alongside buffing Topaz, Asta also buffs Himiko as well. And the extra fire damage is much, much needed because of that reason I said previously that, well, sadly, Himiko's overall damage is much lower than other damage dealers. Again, I'm not trying to say Himiko's a trash character or anything. Don't get me wrong. I think Himiko's great. I love her. I love my Himiko. But sadly, on the damage chart, she just does fall a little short of other characters, especially limited characters, but even non-limited characters can out DPS her, like Clara. Now, I also mentioned March a bit. I would like to talk a little bit more about March. She is interesting, but the problem is, well, March doesn't have great damage herself, obviously. But if you want to play March, you could try a Topaz team with March as the sustainer and another character for Topaz, another follow-up character. I mentioned it a little bit, like maybe Topaz, Clara, and March, something like that, instead of using Fu Xuan or Luocha as your sustainer. This gives Nami like a freaking huge amount of actions and a lot of damage, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not too convinced by that. You know, March's follow-up is single target, so that kind of is meh, so it's not that great. Also, while yes, she does have shields, and eventually if she has enough Eidolons, March can even heal too, her sustain is not amazing, and unlike, say, Fu Xuan, Luocha, Bailu, Lynx, whatever, all of them, she doesn't really have an emergency heal too, so that also does kind of suck. There's another two characters I want to mention a little bit as well, Blade and Herta as well, who I think have potential. Blade has some good AoE. He doesn't get much follow-up though compared to the other characters I've mentioned so far. He also really likes Bronya, and Blade, Bronya, Topaz is a little awkward because then you also need to have a healer, and I guess you could also argue that Bronya kind of has a follow-up, but not really. And then as for Herta, before you say, why are you even mentioning Herta? Well, some people like Herta. I like Herta. I've built Herta. Personally, I feel like Herta doesn't work well with Topaz. I feel like Herta works best in more of a hyper carry team, where you have Herta, 2 buffers, and a sustainer, or even a debuffer, and you just try to push out a lot of AoE damage with Herta by herself. And then there are a few other characters I haven't mentioned. These next characters, I'm not even going to mention them too much. I think they're all just more meme builds, but Kafka, Xingxue, Yanqing, I also said Bronya a little bit. I think they all have some kind of follow-up in their kit, but they're all, in my opinion, memes for one reason or another. So, in conclusion though, what do we have to say here? Well, while you can play Topaz in a hyper carry style, say with like Topaz, Tingyun Asta, and a sustainer like Fu Xuan, I think she really wants to be in a team that has a second damage dealer, specifically one with a follow-up for more Nami attacks. And it's even better if said follow-up damage dealer does AoE, because again, Topaz is a single target character. which is great because this allows other characters to shine in the game, such as, well, Himiko, Genuin, Clara, which is great. Now, again, so just to rank them really quick, I'd say, like, personally, I think Himiko is the best with Topaz, and then Clara, and then Genuin, and after that, I guess March and everyone else. Maybe you could put Blade above everyone else alongside March, but for me personally, the team I like the most, that I've been having the most fun with, is Himiko, Topaz, Asta, as the 3 core members of the team, and the 4th slot is a flex spot. Personally, I use Fu Xuan when I want a sustainer, but sometimes I'll even throw in a Ting Yun if I feel like I don't need the sustain from Fu Xuan. I mentioned this a little bit earlier at the beginning of the video as well. I think she has a lot of potential, similar to Kafka. A better fire relic set, if you have farmed the fire relic set or just even looked at it, you know it kind of sucks. The 4-piece part of it sucks a little bit. So a better fire set would be great. There's been rumors of a follow-up relic set, which could theoretically not just help Topaz, but a lot of the characters on this list I've mentioned, you know, Genuin, Clara, Himiko and Genuin especially would love a great follow-up set. Himiko especially, in my opinion. So yeah, new strong follow-up characters, especially fire damage ones, will really, really make Topaz better and better. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for the video. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it, though. And what do you guys think of Topaz? Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you think she is overrated? Do you think she's underrated? I'd love to hear your opinion. And what kind of characters do you like to pair with Topaz if you do have a Topaz? Personally, I would recommend pulling Topaz if you don't have her. I think she's really fun. Her teams are really fun. And yeah, just her teams are really fun to build. So yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions, though. Like, are there characters I didn't talk about that much that you think are better with her? Do you think Blade is good with Topaz? I know some people really like Blade with Topaz. But again, I'd love to hear your opinions and how you've been building Topaz. And if you guys just enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. It always helps me out, and it always helps out the channel. And if you guys want to keep up with the Honkai Star Rail content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel as well. And if you want to watch me play some Honkai Star Rail, you can go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zenitton, where I stream pretty much every single day. And if you want to talk to me or others about Honkai Star Rail, you can always go and check me out over on my Discord and talk to me there. Always should be in a pinned comment down below. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. Until I see you guys in the next one, bye.